All right, today here with Joe Ryker, and you served in what branch of the military, sir?
Army.
Army? What years?
69 through 72.
69 through 72, straight out of high school?
Yes.
So that window puts you right smack dab in Vietnam, is that correct?
Sure did.
So did you do a tour in Vietnam?
Did a tour in Vietnam. I was in Chu Lai. I was an aircraft mechanic on fixed wing.
Okay. So did you pick that job, or did that job pick you?
Well, whenever I went through basic at Fort Leonard Wood, I met a young man there, and his dad was a E7, and he was in Fort Rucker, Alabama.
Okay.
And he was an instructor on aircraft mechanicing, and he told me that's what he was going to do. And he said, that's what you need to do. And I sure didn't want to be a ground pounder.
Yeah.
So I said, okay. So I had volunteered for the draft. And so I re-upped for another year to be able to go to aircraft mechanic school. So that's what I did.
That's cool.
And whenever I was there, I was learned how to work on the helicopters and fixed wing. And whenever I got to Vietnam, I was lucky enough that I went into a unit that was fixed wing.
Yeah.
And it was just they called it a bird dog. It was like a Piper Cub. It was two people sat in it, front and back, and it was observation plane. And they flew at treetop level. And they would try to get the movement and things of what was taking place, and if we found movement and things that wasn't supposed to be, we had smoke rockets on there, and we would shoot those down, and would call in gunships, which was the helicopters, and they would come in and they would spray it down with gunfire. And
that'd be that.
That would be
so
that.
They were kind of like the targeting mechanism, if
Right.
you will. Interesting. Did you use your training inside the military after you got out for what you did?
Well, I was going to, and it's what they call an A&P license. It's airframe and power plant.
Uh-huh.
And I was going to go to school for that, and I got to talking to a lot of the people, and they said I could go to school, but I'd probably never get on because of my eyes.
Yeah. And that's a conversation we kind of had before we did this. You got discharged because of an illness that affects your eyesight.
Correct.
And that is called, because I didn't know, I'd never heard anything about this, but now I'm well educated on it.
It's histoplasmosis.
Okay.
And it's put scar tissue onto retina, and scar tissue onto retina is non-seeing tissue.
And is there any kind of, you said you had a laser correction on it?
Yes. Well, it's just to stop the blood vessels from bleeding.
Yeah. And did that help it a little bit, or?
It stopped the bleeding.
That's
it
good.
did not.
You haven't been able to correct the damage that was done.
There's no correcting of the damage.
And the other thing he said that was really interesting is that most of us, especially if you grew up around here in chicken farms and bird stuff, that you probably have it, you just don't even know it. And
That's right.
And it might never even do anything to you. It's just 1 in 100,000.
Right.
Wow.
That affects their eyes.
Yeah.
It has affected their lungs.
Wow. Man. Unbelievable. So what did you do when you got out of the service?
Well, I worked at different jobs. I tried to go to work for the post office.
Yeah.
And I couldn't pass the physical.
Oh.
I could pass the test, couldn't pass the physical. And I worked then I tried to work for the prison system.
Okay.
And I couldn't pass their physical
Oh,
either.
man. Those damn eyes.
So I I sold some insurance, and I worked construction, and then I went through here in Springfield, they used to be called Electric Country Rehabilitation Center.
Uh-huh.
And I went through there as a client, and I did good going through as a client, and they couldn't find me work either. So they put me to work as a house supervisor and supervising the clients that came through there. And then I went to work as a truck driver, and then I went to work as the shop supervisor, and then I went to workshop manager.
Wow. You've done a little bit of everything.
And then I went to college. And I thought, well, I like art and psychology, and so I was going to do some art therapy.
Okay.
Well, at that time, the only place to get into art therapy schools was in Kansas. And you kind of had to make your own, sell your own stuff and things to because nobody knew anything about it.
Yeah.
And so I said, no, I don't want to do that because
Yeah.
I don't want to move to anywhere else besides here in Missouri.
Yeah.
And so I didn't do anything like that. So I started working in shuttered workshops. I started making shuttered workshops.
Okay.
And things, so
It's cool. That's really cool. Well, thank you for your service.
well, thank
Thank you for coming to lunch today.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I think it's time to eat.
All right, let's eat.